Now, the reality of it is, it doesn't really prove that a relationship for her is one call away, like even for her as an individual. It just proved that she had a dude on pause the entire time that she knew had feelings for her. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it's only someone like her who's like a presenter, or someone like her who's, probably like very beautiful or anything. It's quite literally something that a lot of women do. Statistically speaking,
the royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who might find it hard to breathe if you've got that asthma. He is also a man whose sore throat for some reason just does not want to let him go, because I don't know, maybe the women have been saying that they love my voice that much, they just want it to stay this way, so they've been praying that the sore throat remains. Either way, it is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. And I'm still operating with the same throat that I was using last time, although it does feel a little bit better. But with that said, I am back, and I am here to speak on singlehood, because, well, people out here are single as shit. And for some reason, it's like there's reasons for it. Like, people have reasons for why they're single, and some of them seem a little bit more fabricated than others. For other people, it's like, why are you single? Of all people. But yet, there's more to it than just what a lot of people would see on the outside that affects people inside their houses, but also inside of themselves. And I do aim to kind of get into that a little bit, considering that there was something that happened which would piss a lot of guys off. And I will kind of get to that in the main topic. Although, with that said, my main goal of this episode is actually just to try and help you rethink the idea of why you're single if you are, or if you know someone who is, and they have their own reasons for it. And should you want to get to the end of that, there is the conclusion that is usually at the end of the episode, of which, if you can listen all the way till the end, and should you like it, should you not like it, should you have a different sort of feedback, or should you want to suggest a topic for me to discuss on the podcast, then the social media links are usually in the description below. They rarely ever change. And, my DMs are always open. So, should you want to suggest anything, you can send it through there, and I will handle it accordingly. Now, we need to access this area that feels a little bit more like a Sahara than a hood, which is singlehood. And while we dive into this desert land of friend zones and missed opportunities and circumstantial issues, I want to first start by kicking things off with something that might annoy some people, might intrigue others, but I find to be particularly interesting. And it was a very interesting fact that came out because of a particular recent form of research which claimed that women can smell if a man is single. Now, when you hear something like that just sounds like a stack of bull, because if women could smell if a man is single, then they'd probably smell what a married man is supposed to, smell like. And they'd probably avoid them. But for some reason, it's like they seem to be going for the married guys. So I don't know. Maybe the married guys found a single potion and sprayed a double dose, so they just seemed, more accessible to a lot more women. But you know what? That's just me poking fun. And even the story itself doesn't have that big of a caption, so I might as well speak on that before I can get into my thoughts on the entire thing. So it says, and I quote, "According to recent research, yes, women can often smell if a man is single, as studies have shown that single men tend to have a stronger body odor compared to men in relationships, which women can detect due to the heightened sense of smell. This is thought to be linked to higher testosterone levels in single men." End quote. And I wouldn't even try to look any deeper than that for me to say that I feel like this is probably a stack of bull. Because the number of times that I've listened to women, and mind you, these are women that I know and that I interact with, talk about how they met this amazing guy and he ticked so many of the boxes, and then at some point they end up finding out that the guy is married, or he's a baby daddy or some shit, and they automatically get turned off, has been so much that I usually start to wonder if these guys just know which buttons to press, or they just know the look, or some version of a cheat code that you can use to attract multiple women. Because Single dudes are out here busy complaining that they're unable to bag babes. Left and right. You're hearing single dudes busy talking about how, oh, I'm having this and this issue and that's why I can't pull babes. Oh, I think I'll just try and focus on the money, blah, blah. But you look at single babes out here and they're busy complaining about how the dating market is full of married men. And I'm like, it's not like the single dudes aren't here. They're here and they're here in plenty. So what's the issue? And also, considering that this is something that women should be able to smell, considering that women like talking about how they have mad intuition, they have a sixth sense, how comes that sixth sense combined with this smell does not stop them from smelling the bullshit that some of these guys usually feed them? Because it's not like these guys usually feed the most complicated, extraordinary type stories to these women. Nah, they feed them the world, but it's so realistic that these babes are like, oh my goodness, I could see myself with this man for life. Then at some point after you've given up the goods, you find out this guy has a wife and a kid or a wife and kids, and he's basically been trying to have a thing on the side with you, hoping that you don't find out that he has a wife and kids. And I'm like, is it that you guys didn't see that shit? Is it that you couldn't smell the bullshit? Was it that the guy is so elaborate in how he planned himself and how he hid everything from you? Because the more I see stuff like that, the more I'm like, is it just me, or is that sixth sense being taken out plus one other sense so that you can claim some sort of a deficiency? Because the only senses that can be used to explain this is your inability to smell the bullshit and your inability to use a sense of logic. But then again, that's just me sounding like I have some sort of bitterness towards babes, blah blah, or I'm just chatting shit. So you know what? It's not about that. Fellas, or should I say single men, I believe that our problem is that we may not have as high enough testosterone as we need so that we can get smelt out. So fellas, I'm not telling you to go and get testosterone replacement therapy or testosterone injections, but maybe we should start going to the gym a little bit more and doing whatever the hell it is people claim is considered masculine things, because they should step up our levels of testosterone, because apparently that's something that can be smelt by women. And with all of that said, I'm just going to leave it at that and move it on to our main topic of this episode, to take this single train a little bit further ahead, because, well, I feel like there's something that, definitely needs to be discussed here. And it's not even just the idea of being single or ending up with, bad options here and there. It's something more of a bigger question. Now, this question actually came from a clip that I saw on IG. It was actually a woman on radio. He was a radio presenter from South Africa called Zanele, who was basically trying to prove that a relationship is one phone call away, or at least that a relationship is one phone call away for her. And she actually went through the whole exercise of calling up someone and basically, trying to confess some version of, her feelings or some level of manipulative shit. I'm gonna let the clip play eventually so that you can hear it, so that, she could prove the point. And, well, much as she thought she proved the point, I do feel otherwise. But even that aside, that's not the main thing that I really want to ask, because the main question was actually in the caption, not even in the clip, which I will get to eventually. But first, I'm gonna let the clip play, then I can give my thoughts on the clip, and then I can talk about the main question. So without further ado,
a relationship is one call away. If I wanted to be in a relationship right now, I would be. And I only have to make one phone call and Bob's your uncle.
Made a bold claim.
I did.
Probably
top one boldest claim on the show.
Literally call him
away.
live on the show.
There it is. Let's do it.
Let's have a listen here.
Hello?
Hi, T.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
My day is good. Sanele. What a surprise.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
I'm good, can't complain. Just that every time I listen to radio or watch TV, I see you, I listen to you, and it's not really helping the situation.
Well, T, actually, I was calling you about that. Because I feel like you and I kind of left things up in the air. And I guess I've been thinking about it a lot. I don't know. Would you maybe want to try again in terms of, exploring that? Maybe even look at a relationship? Because I feel like we've grown a lot. I feel like,
Really?
yeah, I feel like
What
we're in different
changed now,
spaces
Zanele?
now. I'd like to say that I think it's because we are, more mature now. I feel like back then, I mean, wasn't it like 6 years ago? That was when I went to 5FM and everything. I think we've experienced other people. And for me personally, I feel like, I guess I haven't found someone that's as genuine and as intentional as you. So I think it could be a really lovely thing to explore, getting into a relationship.
My thing is, are you ready, especially with how your life is set up right now? You're busy, Zanele.
I know, but they say that people make time for the things that they care about. I really think that it could be something that I am 100% ready for.
Damn. I've been waiting for this for a while, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
You know how I feel about you, obviously.
Yeah.
And that has never changed.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. So listen, I need to jump into a meeting, but can I call you later?
Of course you can.
Okay, cool.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.
Wow!
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I thank my mother. I thank my father. I thank my family. I thank everyone. Thank you.
Yo, Zanele.
Thank you. That's all I have to
You
say.
have the moves, bro.
Well, you
bro,
know
you
what?
cooked, bro.
I could have said yes to it too.
Yeah, like,
You just had to ask.
damn, bro.
Okay.
Nah, Zan, we believe you.
Okay. Now, after this entire thing, of course, you'd think, she managed to achieve whatever the hell she said she was going to achieve. But let's be honest, she didn't really prove what she thought she was gonna prove, because the whole statement was that for her, a relationship is one phone call away. But look, let's be particularly honest. The dude that she was calling was a guy that she's probably messed around with, but they kind of tried doing something about 6 years ago, like they were kind of explaining, and it didn't work out initially. But the guys had feelings for her. She's known that the guys had feelings for her, but the guy's basically been kept at bay. So she reaches out to dude, and dude is like over the moon and everything, and then it ends up working out. But now the reality of it is, it doesn't really prove that a relationship for her is one call away. Like, even for her as an individual, it just proved that she had a dude on pause the entire time that she knew had feelings for her. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it's only someone like her who's like a presenter, or someone like her who's probably like very beautiful or anything. It's quite literally something that a lot of women do. Statistically speaking, about maybe like a third to half of women usually have a backup partner lying around in case the relationship fails. Like, there's always some dude that has feelings, that wants to be with a shorty, but the babe is going to be doing some shit where it's like, she knows she's not dating this guy, she knows she's not going to be with this guy, at least as long as she's currently with the current dude. But in the event that she wants a backup partner, or a shoulder to cry on, like, she has this guy on speed dial, and she'll make sure that there's some sort of like closeness between the two of them, where it's like, I know if I call this guy, he will quite literally come and get me. And it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, you could have really tried to make it seem as though it's easy for you to get into a relationship, but what you just ended up proving is that you have an option if you get out of a relationship, which is not even remotely close to what was being shown. But actually, that entire clip actually came from 5FM. It's a radio station in South Africa, and it had actually started from this debate that they were having, whereby they were asking if you're single by choice or if you're single by circumstance. And I guess this babe doing this with the dude and basically manipulating his feelings and his liking for her was basically her trying to prove that a lot of people, or at least in her case, she's single by choice. But now, the truth of it is, it's actually not that easy to answer. Like, when you come to this question of, are you single by choice or are you single by circumstance, it's very easy for some people to say that you're single by choice, but for you to believe that you're single by circumstance. It's very easy for other people to believe that you're single by circumstance, and yet you say that you're single by choice. And the whole idea of trying to figure out which one are you is very easy to misinterpret, because when you look at the context of whether it's by choice or whether it's by circumstance, when it comes to relationships, it's very easy for one to look like the other. And I'll give you a particularly good example from a guy's perspective. Now, let's say that I'm not making all that much money. I can probably support myself, but I'm not making all that much money. And I say that I'm single because I'm not in the best financial situation to be dating. You know, something that I've talked about before, especially last year, where someone says that they're too broke to date. And what you might think is that you're single by circumstance if you're the guy. But there's other people that are going to be like, well, you know what, you can date someone that makes less than you or someone that's around your level, and you know, you guys can have a pretty good relationship. So you're not single by circumstance, you're single by choice. All right, so that's a very simple example. You can even try and utilize this from the woman's perspective. A woman says, you know, the dating market is shit and all these guys out here, you know, don't know how to treat a woman, and they're not providers, and they fuck around. All right, and you as the woman are going to conclude that you are single by circumstance being there's no good men out there. But then someone else is going to come around and they're going to be like, no, that's not entirely true. There's lots of great guys. You just have to meet them, because there's a ton of them that are out here that you meet every single day. It's just that you don't engage with them all that much. And even though you can say that they won't tick all of those boxes, well, you know, men are naturally polygamous or some other bullshit. Or you'll hear something like, you'll never find a man that's ready-made, so you find a guy that you're comfortable with and you teach him how to treat you well. You know, some people will say that and they'll conclude that you are single by choice. Or they might be like, you know what, I've listened to those and you know the rest of your standards, and I think your standards are pretty high. If you dropped some of those standards and, you know, gave a little bit of compromise, because relationships are about compromise, then you would probably bag a dude pretty quickly. So you are not single by circumstance, you are single by choice. And at that point, it does make it seem as though you're single by choice. But the truth of it is, how people will term whether it's a choice thing or a circumstance thing is going to be very contextual. All right. So not unless if someone has actively chosen to not be in the dating scene, has actively chosen not to date or be in a relationship, you really can't say that they are comfortably single by choice. Not unless if they choose to not be in the dating market, they'll almost always say that they are single by circumstance. And that's one of the bigger divides that's out there, because on one end, you'll find people who will say that you are single by choice. And then on the other end, you will find people who believe that they're single by circumstance. And not unless if you're looking at the extremes on either side, you'll never really get to a point where people will agree that they're single by choice or that they're single by circumstance. The people that are affected, which is the single people, will always say that they're single by circumstance. And the people that will almost always tell you that you are single by choice are almost always going to be people who've been in relationships for a while. Because at that point, that's usually when they think they know a bunch of shit. And to be very honest, like, the people in relationships, married people, like, those ones are the ones that will usually tell you that you're single by choice. And they'll always make shit look super easy, all right? And those ones are the ones that will always make it seem as though being single is a choice and you can bag a good person at any given point in time. Forgetting that sometimes these guys are lucky, other times they're living through some shit that they don't get to think about whenever they're with friends, all right? So it's very common to hear someone that's been married for a long time or been in a relationship for a long time to speak on how it's so easy to get someone, especially today. There's people that believe that because there's not as many men hitting on women nowadays, that it's easier than ever to bag a babe and not be single as a man. And you could say that that's true, you could say that it's a bunch of cap, but at the very same time, it does show that, you know, there's someone that's identified a gap, but they don't entirely understand that that gap is not the only thing that you need to fill so that you can be considered date worthy, at least by some people's accounts. On the other side of the gender pool, there's women that'll be told that, you know what, it's not hard to bag a good man or to bag a man. Usually they just say it's not hard to get a guy because all you have to do is just be submissive. And, you know, while all of that's happening, you know, there's a couple of single people that are looking and they're like, well, we don't mind being submissive, but we want to know who we're being submissive to and whether they are worthy of being submitted to. And then now that's going to be another issue, at least from the single people's side. And that lack of understanding is what's going to constantly make people believe that some people are single by circumstance and others are single by choice. But for the most part, people who are in relationships will almost always believe that like single people are single by choice, especially if you're young and you aren't in any relationship or haven't been in any relationships for a while. And I've noticed this personally. Like there was a time when I was having a discussion with a colleague and I can't even remember. We were busy talking about advancing oneself and, you know, how I should be working on advancing myself. And at some point we pivoted towards relationships and she was busy telling me about how as a young person now, us guys have very high standards, and the problem is that if we just chose to settle down with like someone that is like a really good friend to us, then it would be easy to get into a good relationship and, you know, have a soulmate for life and shit. And she ended up telling me about how, oh, you know, young people nowadays, you guys aren't settling down because you have super high standards or you're being misled by blah blah. And, you know, I let her kind of say her piece. So at that point now, after she got done, now that's when I started bringing up some of the issues that plague people in the dating market. And the interesting thing is, as I was discussing the issues and as she was busy trying to come up with solutions, we realized at some point that she was basically fixing herself into the same corner that single people complain about, where it's like, okay, are there really good people in the dating market? And it was a tough thing because at some point even she admitted that it's bloody hard out here. So when you look at it, like people who are in relationships, people who've been in relationships for a long time will always look at people who are very single right now and assume that it's so much easier for you guys now. You have dating apps, you have all these places you can meet people. Why is it so hard for you to settle down with someone? But then they forget that there's all of these distractions, there's all of this information we have, there's all of these other issues that are there. So on one end, they think that you're single by choice, but on the other end, you believe that you're single by circumstance. And that leads me to the conclusion of this entire thing, which, you know, is basically us going back to the question of whether you're single by choice or whether you're single by circumstance. And to be quite honest, and maybe I should have even spoiled this from the beginning, the only person that can really decide that is you, the individual. But for the most part, those that are no longer in the dating market will say that you are single by choice, and those who are can probably sometimes believe that you're single by circumstance. Other people think that they can decide it for you, but in reality, it'll always come down to what you want and what you're willing to compromise on. That would make it such that you are single, whether by choice or by circumstance. So, unlike most episodes, I don't have a set conclusion as to what would make it single by choice or single by circumstance, which is a little bit weird. But it is also refreshing because it does allow you to ask yourself if you are really single by choice or you're single by circumstance. Either way, I'd be curious to know what it is that you think about it. So this isn't maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, although maybe I am wrong, of which, however it is you feel about it, I'd like your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On IG, it is at the breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the breaktime podcast. On X, it is at Bagaka the D. And on Bluesky, it is at the breaktimepod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.